Have you heard a scary story before? Maybe you haven't. So I am gonna tell you one off the top of my dead. It's gonna be a spooky story. There was a small town where there were many rumors that there were dark happenings in the forest around the town. One of the townspeople, little Jimdy, even used to say he used to play out there, and he'd tell his mom, he'd say, "I think I saw something while I was playing, and it looked like a specter." No, that's not what he said. He said it looked like a witch. Whenever he would retell this, he would have a face full of fright. There would be so much fear in his eyes that you'd think he was dead. But no, he was just telling the truth. So these rumors persisted for years. Little Jimdy was like, he was 18. He was a man now. He remembered experiencing these things, but he hadn't seen this witch since he was a boy. So one spooky night, he decided, let me back up. He had always been afraid of the woods since those experiences. So he stayed away from them, unless he was like with a parent. He had to pass through them every now and then because the town was surrounded by the forest. But there were deeper parts of it that were scarier. So yeah, when he saw that witch, he was out in those deep woods, little Jimdy. So now 18 years old, strapping. He was like, I'm gonna face my fears. It wasn't a witch. Probably just saw some kind of a bag of a lady out there, just kind of witching around, looking like she was cursing spells and casting demons. So he was like, I'm gonna go out there. So in the middle of a night, he went into the deepest, darkest regions of the woods, by a little creek that he used to play with his figurines. And he remembers when he was little, he looked across that creek and saw Witchfinger just tracing the tree. Not seductively, though. He remembers thinking that when he was little. It's like, no, she's trying to grab me by the hair and take me to Dark Town. So he went in that exact spot by the creek, and Big Jimdy, he looked in at that exact same area, and I mean it was very dark. So at first he saw kind of a twig blowing and was like, oh, no, it's back. There it is. But no, it was nothing. His eyes were pranking him something fierce, or so he thought. He got the bright idea he brought a candle with him and lit it, and it was a really good candle, so he lit up the spot, so his eyes couldn't be getting them tricks in on him. And when he did that, he kind of illuminated that spot, and he saw something. At first, he thought maybe it was a monkey's tail with a fingernail at the end of it, but then he was like, no, that doesn't make any sense. So, he just saw it for a second, so he got up. He jumped up, he was sitting down. He had made himself a little chair. He was so, very resourceful. And he shot up and he was like, I'm gonna run over there. So he jumped over the water in the criver. the criver. And he jumped right over the criver and saw nothing yet, but his heart was pounding, it was racing. It was going 90 miles a hour, even. He saw, he went to see a closer look, and that's when, there it was, he saw the finger, not the one that gets, not the censored one. But it was long and gray, and the nail was black. So he was spooked. He just freaking Jimbo jumped out of his pantaloons and kind of was taken aback, and he was like, no, I'm getting to the bottom of this. I came out here at night. It wasn't that hard to do. Well, no, it was hard because he's scared. This was like after years and years of building up the courage to go back into this deep part of the woods by himself at night. He was like, no, I'm out here. I gotta get to the bottom of this. So he followed that finger. Or where kind of the general idea of where he thought it was going. And he saw finger trails in the brush. And was thinking, could this just be another tree, another illusion? Could this be a deer messing? But no, he continued to follow that, and the trail kind of circled as it was clearly going somewhere. He followed it, and where it led was a cave. It was a cavernous cave. You could hear the drip, 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 drip outside, as like it was moist. So he was ready for a deep dive. No. So he still had that candle that he had brought with him. He turned it on and, held it high and was like, this is where the finger trail leads. It leads right into this dark cave. I never saw this cave when I was a little Jimdy. he said out loud. So he held that candle up high. He started to creep in, He was starting to feel that boy in him again. He was starting to feel that boy in his mind and in his body. So he was creeping in with a childlike fear. And a rock fell over at one point, and he downright just about skipped a hop straight out of there. But he was also, it was like part of him was courage too. So he continued, and as he was pretty deep in, he heard something. First, he thought he heard the tiniest little scrape against the rocky cave walls. But then, what was that? For just a second. What the heck? So, that sounded kind of cackle-ish, did it not? He said. So, he pulled up his trousers and he rushed. He was like, "I'm gonna get you, witch!" He knew now that she was real in his bones. He felt it. When he was a kid, he had that same feeling as when he was a little. So he rushed up, just hankering for a witch reveal, for a witch YouTube unboxing, when when all of the sudden, out of the shadows, he could make out eyes. He saw eyes. He reached his hand out. He grabbed onto that Witchfinger and he just yanked it so hard it could have clean came off, but no, the witch came with it. And there she was, a haggard face. You could see the bones through the skin. Her eyes were just so yellow. It was, and the hair was in scraggles and daggles, he thought. It was slim pickings on that head. If you couldn't even made a mustache out of that, as he thought about that. So they locked eyes, her nose protruding as such as a witch does. He figured, why did you torment me that one time when you showed your finger? And this next response, her first response, chilled him to the bones. She said, "That was not my finger. That was your head." He said, "What?" No, he thought he heard her say that, but that's not what she said. She said, "Yes, I was watching you. I was watching you that one time, and several other times too that you didn't even notice. And every time I would wiggle my finger and take a bit of your spirit. And I got so much of your spirit that..." And then she grabs her face, pulls it down his face. She says, I am half you. This is when he just peed to the right to the floor, and he realized, he noticed, he looked down, and she was wiggling her finger right now, taking his spirit, more of it. He was looking at his hands, and they were starting to look like tiny hands, like little ones. And he felt weaker and weaker, and his hair started to get all scraggly. And then the witch, finally, she said, I have been waiting for this moment. I wanted you to come find me. She pushes his weak body over, and he collapses into dust. And this is when the witch goes back into the back of her cave. And once she steps in there, the camera kind of pulls out, gets like a wide shot, like the very back. And there's just little dust piles everywhere. She has gotten many kids. So, I mean, so it's kind of